welcome to Mindset Learn Extra Live. This is grade 10 Life Science with Kathy. Kathy looks amazing all the time.
I feel so
amazing.
odd. I'm so tall. It's like my little baby sister standing, or actually my daughter. I mean, look at how tiny she is. Hi, everybody.
How are you doing today, Kathy?
Cool, my darling.
I've missed you.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've missed you too.
What
I
a
had
wonderful
Ty
show.
last week.
I know. I had you the week before that, and it
Yes,
was an
that's
awesome
right,
show.
that's
You guys
right.
all remember, I know that. What will we be doing today,
Hope
Kathy?
so. People be going through plant organs, as dull as that sounds. I mean, everybody fights with me and says, all the teachers, why don't you like plants? Okay, it's something we have to suffer so we can do the physiology, which is fun. All right, so yeah, we're doing plant organs.
Okay, guys, remember that you can get hold of us and ask us many questions and get interactive and fun and help
Facebook.
each other on facebook.com/learn extra, and also on Twitter. Don't forget Twitter, it's @learn extra. And guys, we'll see you after the break, but just remember to get some water, some snacks, pen and paper so we can draw some leaves.
We're going to
with
work
Kathy.
hard. We're going to work hard for the next hour.
We
So
will.
see you in a minute.
See you in a minute. Welcome back to Mindset Learn Extra Live, guys. This is grade 10 Life Science, as you guys know. Guys, bring in all your comments on the page. We're really enjoying your likes. We are almost at 10,000, which is fantastic, and I'm loving it, and I'm loving seeing all the motivation that you guys, Lucinda, you're amazing as well. We're really enjoying, and Kathy is also very looking forward to the show. So we'll hand over to you, Kathy.
Thanks, darling. All right, guys and girls, welcome. Make sure that you've got your pen and paper ready. You should have done this in class by now. Remember, these are just revision sessions. So we're going to be going through plant organs. And when we look at the plant organ, remember, we started off right in the beginning of your syllabus with cells and all the organelles that make up cells. Then from there we moved to tissues. We did animal and plant tissue. Now we're working towards the organs and then the systems. So cells make up tissues. Tissues, layers of tissue, make up organs. And lots of organs make up systems. And all the systems in our body, the circulatory system, the nervous system, the skeletal system, all of that together makes us the organism. And in the case of a plant, the roots, the stems, and the leaves are all their organs, and that will make up the entire plant, the thing, the organism. All right, so when we look here, we say plant organs. Now, the roots, they are organs, and what is their main function? Well, it's to anchor the plant so that it doesn't fall over. But also, what else do roots do? They absorb water and mineral salts. All right? And it happens to, remember, the root hair. So you're going to have the water and the mineral salts going in via the root hair. That will then move through the cortex cells to the xylem. Once it gets into the xylem tissue transports that water and dissolved mineral salts up the plant. All right? It goes all the way up the plant where the phloem transports up and down. So at this point, we're looking at the xylem transporting the water up the plant. The leaves will make the food, the nutrients, and it will, organic compounds actually, and that will then be passed via the phloem up and down. So in some cases, it can also be stored in the roots. So in the roots can also be a storage organ. All right, like for example, carrots. We eat carrots, don't we? Turnips, carrots, we're eating the taproot. And it's that taproot that now has all the nutrients stored in it. Okay, then if we look at stems, what do stems do? How do they, what is their function? Well, a stem is literally a transport or a structures to transport water and nutrients to the leaves. Okay, so water and nutrients to the leaves, and also back to the roots. But what else do the stems do? The stems are structures from which leaves, buds, flowers, and fruit grow. Okay, that's what the stems do. And the stem is there, it's a structure in between the roots that are absorbing the water and the leaves that are on the other end. All right, and then we look at our little leaves. And what is the function of a leaf? Leaves actually have 3 functions, all right? The first one is photosynthesis. Now look at this word. It's photo, means light, and synthesis means to make. So the leaf uses light to make what? To make nutrients. So in the process of photosynthesis, the plant is going to produce nutrients, okay, or food for the plant, all right, and releases oxygen into the atmosphere during this process of photosynthesis. What it also does is, during photosynthesis, it is going to use carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, all right, and water, which it gets from the roots, from the soil, and ATP. And this ATP is radiant energy. So, your definition for photosynthesis, all right, which you need to know anyway, is a plant which contains chlorophyll, which is the green stuff, all right, is going to use carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water from the soil, radiant energy from the sun, all right, in the form of ATP, to convert to glucose, nutrients, food, all right, and it releases oxygen. And that is why we are able to survive on this planet, because not only do plants produce oxygen for us during the day while the sun shines, but they also use all the carbon dioxide we breathe out. Okay. The second thing that, or second function of leaves is gaseous exchange. All right? And gaseous exchange is going to be that the gases, your oxygen, is going to be released out of the leaves, which was produced during photosynthesis. Your carbon dioxide that's needed for photosynthesis is going to be absorbed through the breathing structures, the gases exchanging. And then the plant itself is going to produce carbon dioxide, which is a waste gas, and it's going to use oxygen as well. So you've got all the gases exchanging through the plant and in and out of the plant. All right, now the third process that's going to, or third function of a plant is that it's got photosynthesis, but now remember, during photosynthesis, it needs the water. So what it does is the plants are therefore transpiration. And what transpiration does is it causes a suction force. And that suction force helps to get the water from the roots to the leaves. All right, so it actually helps to get its own water up the plant to itself so that it has water for photosynthesis, all right? So there we go with that process. Very easy, you've got to know this. So it's photosynthesis, it's gaseous exchange, so breathing, and then also transpiration, which is the release of water vapor out of the plant or the leaf all the time the sun shines. Why? It creates this suction force, because as the water comes up into the roots, up the stem, to the leaves, and out. Just think of a long queue of people, and as the one person goes in, the whole queue moves up. So as the one water molecule moves out of the leaf, so the next water molecule can move into its place. All right, if we look at plant organs, this is the basic structure of a leaf. Now, if we look at this, we're looking at a dicotyledonous leaf. Okay, now remember the difference in monocots and dicots. Your monocot leaves, all right, always did not have a petiole. That's number one. And number two, the leaves sort of wrap around the stem and then off it, like bamboo, like grass. And the leaves all have a parallel venation. In other words, the veins all run in the same direction, all going upwards, all right, or downwards, but they all next to each other. They're a parallel venation. And if you look at the leaf, the back and the front, or the top and the bottom of the leaves are there's very little difference between them. Whereas if we look at the dicotyledonous leaf, they're the leaves where we have all the different shapes. They have a petiole, they have a main vein with lots of little side veins. It's your classic leaf type. Okay, now looking at this, let's just lift it a little bit. The first thing you're going to notice is, and I'm going to make this yellow all the way along here. Okay, let's get another color here. Okay, let's go with the purple. Okay, all the way along here. This entire leaf is covered with a layer. That layer is called a waxy cuticle. All right, and that waxy cuticle protects the leaf. It protects it from desiccation. Desiccation is just a very fancy word for drying out. All right, and if you look at some leaves, they look very, very shiny. They look like someone took a polish brush and gave them a nice big polish. Now, that shininess on the leaves is the waxy cuticle. Whereas if you look at other leaves, that waxy cuticle isn't very thick. And one of the functions of the waxy cuticle, as I've said, is to prevent the leaf from desiccation, prevent the leaf from drying out. So clearly, plants that you find in areas that are very dry, have very little rainfall, are very hot, like the desert, for example, and they have leaves, actual leaves, you'll find that the leaves are smaller, but they'll also have a very thick waxy cuticle. All right, so that's the waxy cuticle to protect the leaf from the outside. The very next layer that we have, and I'm not sure, I'm trying to look for the label here. This line should go down to here, all right? This first layer all the way along there, and they look like little bricks. Those are your epidermal cells. And we know anything with epi means on top. And if it's on top, its main function is to protect. All right, that's all it is, a single layer of epidermal cells. Now, if you look at this area in between here, there are all kinds of different things happening. So let's start on this side. This area here, this whole round area here, is called the midrib. Okay, and what is it? It's the main vein, or what we would call the main vein of a leaf. So if you take a normal leaf and you turn it over and you look at it, it's going to have this vein that comes all the way up it like that. In fact, let me just do this quickly just to show you. This is what your leaf looks like. There's your stem. You'll have your little petiole. All right? And then attached to that petiole, you're going to have your leaf. And this is your main vein or midrib. And then from there, you're going to find your little veins coming off, and they break up, and they break up, and you have millions of little leaves, veins all over. The girls will know this. At one stage a couple of years ago, and I think it's actually coming in fashion now, you had like a leaf that was made in gold or silver, and it's just the veins of a leaf. And us girls, well, we wore it as jewelry.
Yeah, I have one.
Kat, you remember?
Yeah, I have one. I have a silver one and a gold one.
There we go. Yeah. Now, those veins that they made turned into jewelry, okay, they are actually what a leaf would have as the midrib and the veins. And in those veins, we are going to find what? What do our veins carry? Our veins transport blood. In this case, we need water to go from the roots all the way to the leaves, and we need the leaves to take the nutrients that they've produced and send them all the way down. So we have the xylem, and I'm not sure why my pen has gone funny. Okay, we have the xylem. So we've got our xylem tissue. Then it looks like fingers. Can you see here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's almost like fingers standing up like that. And then the base of the hand, so the palm of the hand, would be your phloem cells. All right? So the xylem's on, people, this is important. The xylem is on top, and the phloem is at the bottom. So think of the fingers, xylem, and the phloem. All right? Also, if you look here, your xylem has it's got a thick cell wall. All the way to here. So those are all your xylem. And your phloem, here your sieve plates. So there are your sieve plates of your phloem cells. All right? And this here is your strengthening tissue. Strengthening tissue. Now, if you recall, when we did the plant tissue, your strengthening tissue was your sclerenchyma. So you would have sclerenchyma around there, and that's why those veins, even when all the other cells have broken off a leaf, the veins are still there, just like the jewelry. Kat, we're going to an ad break.
Yes, ad break, Kathy. That sounds wonderful, actually. I want more jewelry like that. I have to read you a message from Koketso. Okay. She says, I love Life Science so much with Kathy. You're making it so easy for us. I wish I could give you a great big hug and a gift to show you how much I appreciate your help and your time.
Oh,
and that you rock.
Mwah.
Kathy,
thank you, darling.
She does rock, doesn't she? Don't worry, Koketso. I'll give her a great big hug for you in the break. Enjoy your break, guys. See you now. Welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you guys had a fantastic break and are enjoying the leaf, as Kathy puts it. Kathy, over to you.
Okay, we're going to try very hard to make this sound lovely and exciting. But shame, man, I mean, look at this thing. It really is trying. Okay, now remember the functions of the leaf, people. It's photosynthesis. It's gaseous exchange and also transpiration to create that suction force to get the water all the way from the root, all the way to the tippy end of a stem. Okay, so your xylem in the midrib, the main vein, and this will go for all these other little side veins. You're going to have your fingers, the ones that stick up with the thick cell walls, okay? Those are your xylem vessels. Your phloem makes up the palm of this hand structure. And you've got your strengthening tissue that sits all the way around here. So that when a leaf has been left in the ground and all the soft tissue has disintegrated, you've got the skeleton. And the skeleton is because of the strengthening tissue and the xylem vessels. Okay, that's what makes it. All right, now, let's see where we're going from here. Very important. You see these things here? I'm going to do another color here. Let's go with our orange. This here and that there. All right? Just looking at those structures, you can see that they're holes and they're spaces there. Now, those spaces are your air spaces, and they are very, very important because we only find them in the bottom type of tissue, and the bottom tissue is called spongy. They haven't really given me much space to write here. Spongy parenchyma. Now, do you remember parenchyma? Okay, and at the top here, these cells, so the top layer across here, and you move, move back. Thank you. Oh, no, man. Now I'm really moving everything. It's becoming this is like a computer. You know, they only do what you tell them to do. All right? And here you've got your palisade parenchyma. Okay, so you've got palisade parenchyma across the top and spongy parenchyma across the bottom. Now use your common sense. Palisade parenchyma is packed closely together, all right? And they contain a lot of, chlorophyll, the green stuff. And if you look at your dicot leaves, the top side, or the dorsal side, is very, very dark compared to the ventral side or the bottom side that is lighter. It's always lighter than the top side. Why? Because guess what? It's got more green. And what makes the green? Chlorophyll. And why do we want that? Because what is the chlorophyll's job? Because in the chloroplasts, which contain the chlorophyll, and you've done the chloroplasts, photosynthesis takes place. So we must have those chloroplasts, lots of them, with lots of chlorophyll, so the plant can photosynthesize. Okay, so your palisade parenchyma, lots of chlorophyll, and your spongy parenchyma, well, if they're spongy, they're at the bottom of the leaf. What is their job? Their main job is going to be gaseous exchange. Get the gases out. Get the water vapor out. Get the oxygen out. All right? So that spongy parenchyma, very important, and it has lots and lots of intercellular, between intercellular air spaces. And now, if we look at this little structure here, it actually looks like this. It's got two little bean shapes around it like this. And this whole little thing, both the bean-shaped things and the hole, that's called a stomata. Okay, it's a stomata. And the stomata is made up of two guard cells, which we're going to do in detail just now, and it's got the pore. So we can either call it the stomatal pore, or we can call it the stoma. And stoma is so much easier to write than stomatal pore. So stoma, finished. Okay, and then here, this label line here is that will be your upper epidermal cells, and here is your lower epidermal cells. Okay, and what have we not labeled? I think we've got the whole bang shoot. All right, or the whole enchilada, as they say. Okay, people, midrib, you're going to have your side veins on the side. If you cut through this leaf in a cross section, you've got your intercellular air spaces, very important for the spongy parenchyma. Your palisade parenchyma's main function, photosynthesis. Your upper epidermis to protect, your lower epidermis to protect. And then on top of that, we have our waxy cuticle. All right. And yeah, that's it. Make sure you know this label. If this diagram, if I was testing you, I would definitely give you this. And first of all, say to you, where in the plant is this found? Okay, and then I'd ask you to label it, and then I would say to you, structure versus function. What does it do? Why is it there? Okay, so palisade parenchyma for photosynthesis, spongy parenchyma for gaseous exchange, waxy cuticle and upper and lower epidermis to protect, etc., etc. Please make sure that you know that. Righty. Okay, this is just a different diagram so that you can see a different way. The one I've just shown you now is just the flat 1D diagram, whereas this, they've sort of tried to give it depth and perception. Now, what have we got here? We've got the waxy cuticle, What color have I got on here? Let's just get, or let's go with purple. We've got the waxy cuticle on the outside. Upper epidermis, lower epidermis. Spongy parenchyma. Can you see how many air spaces are in between these cells? You see, huge, nice, big air spaces. Whereas your palisade parenchyma, what's their main job? Was photosynthesis. So they're nice and tightly packed. The spongy have chloroplasts. I mean, we can see the chloroplasts there. But look how many chloroplasts we have in the palisade. Why? Their job is photosynthesis. We call this the mesophyll of the leaf. And then we've got our guard cells. And there's one guard cell. Here's the other guard cell. They look like two bean seeds that have been put together. And in the middle, we have the stoma or stomatal pore. It depends on what your teacher prefers. And then lots of chloroplasts within this palisade cell, lots of chloroplasts, a nice big vacuole, all right? Nucleus, the cell wall, and then clearly the cytoplasm. And when the chloroplasts produce the glucose, that glucose goes into the cytoplasm and is transported out of the cell. And from there, the phloem will then eventually carry it in water, dissolved in water, to all the parts of the plant where they need it and where it needs to be stored. Okay.
Kathy, I have a question from Siamo. Is the spongy, what is it?
Spongy parenchyma.
Is it the same as the spongy mesophyll cell?
Yes.
Is it the same? Okay,
Yes.
cool.
People, a mesophyll just means the middle part of the leaf. Okay, so the mesophyll, anything with phyll means piece. All right, so mesophyll is the middle part of the leaf. You've got the cuticle, the upper epidermis, the lower epidermis, and the mesophyll is in the middle. All right, and the mesophyll is made up of the palisade parenchyma, or you can say palisade mesophyll cells, which is rather silly because you're saying, well, the palisade in the middle, because that's what mesophyll means. Remember, meso always means middle. Okay, meso, I'm trying to think of what other ones, meta, so that just means middle, that's all. So palisade parenchyma, photosynthesis, tightly packed, lots of chloroplasts, and your spongy parenchyma, nice big air spaces. Why? Because their main function is gaseous exchange, to get those gases in and out of the leaf. All right, just in the structure of the leaf, what I wanted to show you here was your palisade parenchyma. And if you look at your palisade parenchyma cells, I just want to try and find one cell that's, I hope you can see this. There would be your palisade parenchyma cell there. Lots and lots. Look at all these chloroplasts. They're all over here. So all this mottled green stuff, that's your chlorophyll. So lots and lots of chlorophyll, tightly packed. And can you see here that there are no intercellular air spaces. Okay, you'll have to forgive me. No intercellular, inter, between. Intra, inside. So intercellular, between the cells, air spaces. Okay, if there was, then we'd know it was spongy parenchyma. Okay, now we go on to the stomata. Now people, we don't want leaves to lose tons of water. They need to preserve their water because they need that water in photosynthesis. So while the leaf does undergo transpiration, which, by the way, is not the same as perspiration, all right, or sweating. Now, you know, people, that boys sweat, girls perspire, okay, or radiate. All right, so biologically, though, the stuff that comes out of and Kate's killing herself laughing at, but the stuff that comes out of us, that sweat is a form of excretion because it's wastes that we excrete through our skin, but it's also your skin as a secretory organ to cool you down because it is waste that we're using, but we're using it to cool us down, which is a good thing. All right. Leaves don't perspire. They don't sweat. What they do, because they don't do it to cool down, what they do is they lose water through the leaves so that as the water leaves or exits, I was going to say leaves the leaf, exits the leaf, it sucks the water out. It creates a suction force to pull the water up from the root. Now, that's all fair and well in a little plant that's this size, or this size, or this size, or even this size. But when you're looking at a plant that is 15, 20, 30, 100 meters high, can you imagine sucking water through a straw 15 meters long? I mean, Kat, can you imagine that?
That would be almost impossible.
It would be pretty impossible. I mean, the next time you go out, take 10 straws and stick them end on end into each other. It's actually fun. Stick them end on end into each other, all right, and make sure you've got a really good airtight thing. And maybe if you've got some chewing gum, because it's your straw, wrap your chewing gum around it to make it really airtight. And then try and suck whatever it was that you were sucking through that straw, try and suck it through 10 straws. It's very, very hard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. The longer that straw gets, the more hectic it is to suck. Now, you must remember, the water has to move from the root hairs into the xylem and all the way up. Jeez, and there are some trees that are mammothly huge. So it's got to get to the tippy one, the tippy little leaf. It's a long way. You've got to create that suction force, and it is an incredibly strong force. All right, so how do we do it? How does a plant do it, at least? A plant does it with the stomata. Now, the main function of these little stomata is gaseous exchange and also transpiration. Now, if a normal plant that's growing in your garden, okay, a proper indigenous South African plant, just growing there happily, and all of a sudden we have a heat wave or we have a drought, like they have in Ethiopia, this mega drought for years and years and years. Do you think that the normal plants in your garden are going to be able to survive without us giving them water with a hose pipe? No. They are going to have to make sure that they protect themselves to a degree. Now, if you take a plant and compare that to a plant that grows in the desert, it's going to have stomata that are deep inside the leaf. They're going to have little hairs in that passage area between the stomata and the outside. Whereas a plant that gets lots of water and lives in the Amazon, well, guess what? There's plenty of water all around, and it's nice and humid, so it doesn't have to worry about losing water. So you're going to find most of your stomata on the lower surface of the leaf, so that the light and the heat doesn't really impact on the gases exchanging. Sure, as the water comes out of the leaf, it's going to evaporate. And if it's hot, it's going to evaporate faster than if it's cold, okay, or dark or light, etc. But you're going to find the majority of the stomata on the lower surface with less. You're still going to find them, but you can have far less on the upper surface. And that's part of all the adaptations that plants have in order to survive. One of them is to conserve water. So we have the stomata. Now remember, the stomata are mainly on the lower side of a leaf. So let me just check if I've got white here. We have our leaf. Okay. This is top side, okay, or we say the dorsal side. Okay, and then on that same leaf, if we turn it over, on the lower side, or bottom side, let's put top and bottom, or we're going to call it the ventral side. Okay, the best way to remember it is this. If you look at the human body, all right, and I'm standing here, where's my dorsal side and where's my ventral side? My dorsal side is my back. My ventral side is my tummy. If I was on all fours, look at a horse, a dog, dorsal side is the back, ventral side is the tummy. So the same with the leaf. The dorsal side is the top side, the ventral side is the bottom side. Easy to remember if you were standing on your hands and knees. Alrighty, now, I think let's go with the orange. We'll do blue just now for the boys. Okay, this is a stomata. Remember, it's in the epidermal, the lower epidermal layer. So this here is your lower epidermis. Okay, that's your lower epidermis. And part of that lower epidermis, you have your guard cells. Now, how does a guard cell work? Guard cell has these, the stomata. It has 2 guard cells. So this structure here would be one guard cell. And that one is another guard cell. I'm going to shade it in. So there's the one guard cell. And we're going to put these diagrams up for you, all right? So there's one guard cell, and there's the other guard cell. So the 2 guard cells sit next to each other. Here, you can see the little bean shape. Here we go. And there. So your 2 little beans. In the middle is a hole. The hole is called the stoma or the stomatal pore. Okay, now, this guard cell has a very large vacuole. Okay, now why would it have a large vacuole? What is the main function of a vacuole? It's to control the water in a cell and to control the cell's turgidity. Turgidity means how full it is. And if it's full of water, it sits in that cell sap of the vacuole and makes it nice and full. Kat, how are we doing for time?
I think we must go to an ad break, Kathy.
Should we go for an ad break
Yeah,
quickly, and then we can
let's-
finish the stomata?
Yeah. Okay, we'll finish that after the break. Guys, get your refreshments. You know that there's a lot more to go, and there's a lot more slides and nice, funny-looking pictures to go. Enjoy your break. Welcome back, Mindsetters. Hope you guys had a fabulous break. Grade 10s, remember, post your questions now on the page, facebook.com/learn extra, and our Twitter handle is @learnextra. And guys, come on, we need to chat. I'm enjoying chatting to you. Aren't you enjoying chatting to me? Hey, Kathy?
I have to say, Kat, that I'm actually quite happy that they're not chatting. It means that they're paying attention.
They're paying attention, they
Yeah,
really
so that's cool. And if they aren't posting questions, I
they're
sincerely hope it's because they're understanding everything. So that's cool.
Yes, and because you're a great teacher,
Oh,
so I'm
thank
sure
you, darling.
everything is sinking in well.
All
Take
right.
it away, Kathy.
So here we go now. All right. Now remember, part of the guard cell, you're going to have some chloroplasts. And I'm going to explain to you briefly how it works, and then you're going to have your cytoplasm. All right? And all of that together makes the guard cell. So you've got this little thing, 2 little bean cells sitting next to each other. But what's really special about them is that the inner wall, this inside wall over here, all right, is thicker than the outer wall. And the fact that the inner wall is thicker than the outer wall is absolutely awesome, because I can't draw my diagram. I'm going to draw my own diagram. I've got this. So you've got your little bean-shaped thing. And at night, you must remember, the stomata is closed. All right? And they'll look like this. And they've got this thick area in between, because this inner part is very thick. It's got like a thick, thick skin. And this, or cell wall, and this side outside has a thin wall. There's your stoma. And you've got your 2 guard cells. All right? And you must remember that the stoma and the 2 guard cells together make the stomata. And we find them mainly on the bottom side of the leaf. Now, they've got lots and lots of chloroplasts. And what happens is the chloroplasts will photosynthesize. And when they photosynthesize, they produce glucose. And glucose causes water to move because it lowers the water potential. And it causes water to move from the neighboring epidermal cells into the guard cells, into the vacuole, causing the guard cell to swell. But the inner walls are thick and the outer walls are thin. So where does it balloon to? It literally balloons out, and that opens the pore. At night, the chloroplasts don't photosynthesize. So now I'm going to have a higher water potential when the moon is out and the stars. Okay? A higher water potential in the guard cell and a lower water potential in the neighboring epidermal cells. So what happens? The water will move out. And as the water moves out, those two thicker inner parts of the guard cells close. And that's how the guard cells open and close. During the day, transpiration, gaseous exchange, and at night, closed. Alrighty. Here's an example, or here's a picture, micrograph. There's your little guard. You see your little guard cells here? Let me get white. You see your little guard cell. There's a little guard cell. There's a little guard cell. And they're creating this opening. All right? Here's more stomata. This is from the side. So you're going to have, there's your epidermal, your lower epidermal cell. Huge intercellular air spaces, which are these white areas over here. And there's your guard cell, and the guard cell will open and close. More stomata. If you look here, this leaf is covered with them because every one of these round little things here is a stomata. All right, stomata, 2 guard cells, 1 stoma. It's just to give you an idea what they can give you. I mean, your teachers could give you this in black and white and say, label it. What tissue is this? Well, remember the plant, the leaf is an organ. Okay. Okay. The morphological factors to prevent excess water loss from a leaf. Now you think, whoa, where'd that word come from? Morphological. Morph means to your physical appearance. So, come on, you've all seen the X-Men. And you've got Morph. What is Morph's function? He can change his body. So morphological means the body, all right, or the factors of the body that are going to, now look at this, prevent excess water loss. How does a leaf prevent excess water loss? I've already told you quite a couple. Okay, number 1 is that if it has a thick cuticle. And what kind of cuticle is it? It's a thick, waxy cuticle. Why? Because if it's thick, it's going to prevent water loss. No doubt. If it's very thin, that plant's going to transpire quite heavily. So it has a thick cuticle. What else do you think a leaf could do to not lose a lot of water? Now, to give you a clue, if I have a T-shirt, and I take this T-shirt, or a costume, because I don't do T-shirts, or a costume, and you take your costume, Kat, where would you hang your costume if you wanted it to dry quickly? Hang on. In the bathroom, in the shower, or outside on the balcony in the sun?
Outside on the balcony in the sun, definitely.
Thank you. All right. Now, if you think about that, and would you leave it in a crumpled little ball, or would you spread it out?
Spread it out.
You would spread it out. Okay, so the bigger the surface area, the more water is going to be lost. So the thinner, smaller the leaves are, the less water. So what? We're going to, the size of the leaf. Okay? So that is also going to prevent excess water loss. So if we have a needle shape, just as an example, you're going to have less water loss than you will for a big leaf that's this size. You know, like those delicious monster leaves? There we go. So you'd have a thick cuticle, the size of the leaves. You'd also have hairs on the leaves. Because if you had hairs on those leaves, the water would evaporate, it would get trapped on the little hairs, and it would stay there, and then eventually cause a cooler area around the leaf, so it would reduce the rate of transpiration. Now, I'm rushing here for time. We've got like 2 minutes left. So people, look at the morphological factors. Just use your common sense. All right? How would a plant look? What would the leaves do? And how would they be shaped to either increase water loss or decrease water loss? Where would I find more stomata? The stomata would be found on lower surface rather than on the upper surface. All right? And my brain's going into overload mode. Make sure you know 3 to 4 of these because they will ask you. Okay? And I do want to show you not extracting chlorophyll. This one. This is a lovely experiment. It's to demonstrate that the transpiration of leaves from a plant. And I haven't really got time to go through this in detail with you, but what I am going to do is this. Clearly that's a bell jar. These are drops of water. Okay, this plant, or this is your experiment. Okay, and in the experiment, you've got a leafy plant. In this one, they've stripped the leaves off. Because why? You want to demonstrate that transpiration is through the leaves of a plant. So this one is your control. Okay, now, this paper that you see here is called cobalt chloride paper. And all you must remember is if it is wet, it goes pink. Now, girls, you'll remember this easily because girls are pink. You think of boys, they're blue, girls are pink. All right, so it is actually blue when it's dry, and when there's water, it will go pink. Here, in the experiment, because the leaves are transpiring and we now have droplets of water, the cobalt chloride paper will be pink. And where there is no water, it will be blue. All right, so just remember that. And yeah, cut. That's it.
That's it. Guys, I had a fantastic show, Kathy. Thank you so much, guys. You guys were focused. I mean, Matthew's saying that everything was so simple because he was focused. Grade 10s loved the show, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it, Kathy. Thank you
Plant
very
organs.
much.
The
Plant
leaf, I mean,
organs.
whoa.
The leaf. Guys, thank you so much for a fantastic show. Keep focused. Keep looking at these photos. Download them on your phones.
Learn from your diagrams, people.
Yes.
Please learn from your diagrams. Know how to label them and learn. And I promise you now, you know 90% of the work if you know your diagrams.
Of course. Especially when they're on your phone and you save it as a screensaver, then you always have it there.
That's an idea.
Yeah, that's the best idea. Guys, study hard.
Have a good one.
Learn extra. Have a good one. Bye.
See you next Wednesday.